Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Podcast in the description. Subscribe to that as well.
All right. We've talked a lot about the Raiders, John. We talk a lot about Derek Carr. The article in The Athletic from Vic Tafur, multiple sources, including one GM, told The Athletic the Raiders' preference is to move Mariota and keep Carr unless someone makes a ridiculous offer for Carr. Apparently, Jay Gruden weighed in on it, John. Said, I never know what John's going to do, but I'd be shocked, really, the way Derek's played this year. I don't know why I'd want to get rid of him, but who knows? If there's another guy out there they really, really like, at the end of the day, it's a business. There is no question to me what they got to do. What they got to do is trade Marcus Mariota, John.
Quick side note, I don't know how to get a hold of Jay Gruden, but I'm going to do some texting around. I actually feel like he's made for a podcast, right? You've given me a couple Jay Gruden nuggets the last couple weeks, and it's just like, God, this guy brings it. This guy's got some takes.
Absolutely. Jay is ready to roll. Well, if you think about it, if you're Jay, you're like, John looks like he would really enjoy doing TV, but he can't. Maybe there's $10 million a year out there for me. Monday Night Football.
Good. I'm reading. I got the Roto World piece pulled up, and they just basically Roto World was Twitter before Twitter, also with just a take of an overall take. And one of the lines in here are some are thinking that Mariota can be a reclamation project, a little bit like Ryan Tannehill was, who basically Wally pipped / just beat out Mariota, right? Because Mariota, I thought he was shot. I'm like, I don't feel it. You got to give him his due coming off the bench the game against the Chargers on a short week. He looked pretty good. I also think you got to base his play. He's been a starting quarterback in the league consistently year after year after year, right? A couple injuries, has a playoff victory on the road against the Chiefs. Like that did happen. And he had a very, accomplished college career. Like he's an accomplished player. I think as the season gets sometimes going, you just end up with like, how is Chase Daniel still in the league? Like, what is Blaine Gabbert doing? How is Mullins? Mariota to me is in a different world of a lot of the backups in the league that maybe he just is a backup. And if that turns out the case, I know this, I would rather have him as a premium backup than a lot of like, well, we got Chase Daniels for $2 million. I'd rather have this guy for like 5 or 6. But is there a chance that like, if your team is really good, if I put him on the Saints next year, could they make the playoffs with Mariota starting 16 games? I believe they could. If he showed signs of what we saw in just that one game with the Chargers. And we know that Mayock and Gruden think highly of him. I think his character is off the charts. You've talked to him. I've talked to him before. He's just people that I know that know him really well swear by him. It was like his talent, right? It's like, is he a little Alex Smithy?
His passing ability, yeah.
The pushback is, unlike Alex, he hasn't been the most accurate guy. Because his arm's not great, but he's not really accurate. In the one game that he played, he was 17 to 28. Like in that game, I thought he was good. He looked like a guy that can start in the league.
Yeah, I mean,
so to me, if you need a bridge starter for $10 million, you could do way worse. I mean, we've seen the Glennons of the world get 20 and be a complete flameout. Like, I do believe this guy could start 16 games. Is he better than Teddy Bridgewater? Feels like probably. He's a little more mobile.
Maybe. So a couple things. First thing.
If your team sucks and he's your starting quarterback, you're probably not going to be good.
Well, so
that's the Teddy analogy. If you put him on the Carolina Panthers, they would be bad too.
Yeah. Would you consider, though, keeping him at $10 million, knowing that Derek, it would still make your quarterback room really expensive, but Derek's not making $32 million. You'd be paying basically, I think, $32 million for your two quarterbacks. Derek's cap number is 22. So you need so many other things. You're not willing to do that, right?
If you told me that Derek is 100% staying, Mariota has to go. Yesterday, I get my days mixed up. They guaranteed Peterman $1 million.
Yeah.
So you just have he's your backup. Derek's your starter. I need that $10 million to sign 2 corners or sign a linebacker in a corner or just sign 1 corner. Like I maybe go big game hunting, but I need that money. Yeah.
So,
but the Raiders just admitted what they're thinking, right?
Yeah, because
that maybe both guys are on the table. Could you roll back? Is there any way that you could justify trading Derek? Let's say the Bears 1 and 2. So you get a first round pick. What is it, like 19, and their second round pick. Mariota's your starter, Peterman's your backup. You use all that ammo with your own pick to just kind of reset the franchise, or is that too risky? And if he's not good, you're fucked.
Not a chance in hell.
Derek
no
didn't
way.
throw 40 touchdowns this year. He threw 27.
I only pretended to think about it. there is no chance I would consider doing that if I were the Raiders. No chance. No way. No. Not if you do, unless you're resetting, but they have no reason to do that.
I do wonder. Last year when they signed him, I remember, and the good part about Mayock and John, with the guys that are a little older, now they've both been in the league. I guess Mayock now 2 years, John going on 4. So the group of the guys that are like Sam Darnold, I don't have John Gruden's draft grade. But like Marcus Mariota, I remember when they signed him, Mayock just goes, look at my draft rankings. You know what YouTube me, right? YouTube John. He had the quarterback camp. You know what they thought about him. They like him. And they gave him a pretty good contract. And then he played well for him.
Yeah. But he's not better than Derek Carr. So their team is worse if he's their starting quarterback.
And you're not saving, to me, if Derek was making 33 instead of 20, like that, they're only saving $12 million.
Well, and you are desperate to make the playoffs.
Desperate.
So there is not a chance you can do that. And I said this last year before the season started. Marcus Mariota is not taking Derek Carr's job. He's not better than Derek Carr. There's a lot to love about Marcus Mariota, right. But he's not better than Derek Carr. And you and I had this conversation for years going back to the draft, and I said I don't love him as a passer. You bring up the things you were right about, but he's still you're right. He's a good player. He is better than just a regular NFL backup. If I was playing devil's advocate on his great performance,
I think what makes us unique when it comes to the Pac-12 players, I think a lot of other guys that talk about football for a living in the country a lot of them don't live on the West Coast. And if you don't live on the West Coast, let's face it, you're not going to – and it's why I think what kind of makes DJ a little unique. He's just out here. He had watched a lot of Pac-12. You get a lot of guys
that
just
Jeremiah.
Live in the Midwest or the Northeast. You're just not going to live and die with the Pac-12 games as much when some of these other games are on. You obviously call games, and we both consume a shitload of it. Mariota was pretty universally thought like we were – and I remember I had a couple friends in the NFL that agreed – were like, he's being compared to Steve Young. And that was like a universal comparison. Mayock, who was viewed as the number one guy, had him like number one. Like, he was not like, you were an outlier if you questioned his talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, questioned his talent to be like, he's not going to be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we had a radio show. I tweeted like his, and this is when I learned how powerful Titans Twitter was. Like, best case, is he like a little more athletic Alex?
That's right.
And they freaked.
They did.
And that was the first time I ever got ratioed in my mentions by a fan base. Ultimately, I turned out to be right, but the momentum for him, because he starts right away, they had a little success. And I do think you saw flashes in the one game, but yeah, it's clear. Like if you did a redraft, he's a second or third rounder, not the number 2 overall pick, right?
Well, aren't most first rounders?
He's still getting
turns
drafted.
out.
Yeah.
Turns out most first rounders in a redraft, and when you don't put the quarterback on the pedestal.
You're not even talking quarterbacks. You're just talking in general.
No, I'm talking specifically quarterbacks. Like, it turns out most first round quarterbacks are just third rounders.
Yeah.
But that's not the way the position gets drafted. If I'm going to play devil's advocate on the game that he played really well when he came off the bench on a short week, I do give him a ton of credit. Again, I root for the guy. Like, I've seen what he does at Oregon. I've seen how much they love him at the University of Oregon. I've seen how much they love him in Hawaii. Like, you and I both root for him. The defense also was playing Marcus Mariota off the bench on a short week. So I do think in that situation, the Raiders probably had a little bit of an advantage. But
he had 88 yards rushing.
Yeah, that can't – I just – You to me, and this is why I did buy some of the they're taking calls on Carr.
I'd venture to guess Derek's never rushed anything close to 80 yards in a game, right?
That's a good question. Probably
maybe
not.
He's had one big run in a game. I'd bet his career, if I had to take an educated guess, career high 45 yards.
Yeah,
and it's like a 30-yard run in there or something.
The reason I did buy just that they were taking calls on Derek was because what else that report said was if they could replace him with a better quarterback. Right? In other words, like, yeah, okay, could we do a deal where we end up with Deshaun? Fine. But those reports were never and have never been this year, okay, let's get Derek out of the way so Marcus can be the starting quarterback. That's not what they're thinking.
No, that has not been a report yet. The Carr trade was predicated on a Deshaun connection.
What could they get from Mariota, do you think?
Nothing in the first Yeah, to me, nothing in the first 2 days because he's going to be a free agent and he's not like a bona fide starter. I think you just factor in the position, quarterback. I think you end up getting a fourth. Good character guy. You don't have to worry about him. I think a fourth. I mean, we see a lot shittier players get traded for like thirds. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you feel that bad about giving away a fourth. I mean, teams like take punters and kickers and I could live with taking Marcus Mariota for a fourth, even though it's potentially just a 1-year rental, right? Because you also might do it. Here's to me where you might do it. If you trade Sam Darnold or Tua's gone and you just want to have a guy around and you have a little money, like you're a team that's going to have a rookie quarterback and you don't necessarily like.
How about Arizona?
Atlanta wouldn't have to do it. I think Arizona would.
But they
got
to pay. Sense. But again, like, does it?
Yeah,
make
but
sense
they're all. Yeah, to me, they make more sense to have a $1 million backup. They're just all their chips
that's why I take it back.
I think the bad teams, or even / desperate, like if Washington, the dust settles, you're like, I don't know if we can get a quarterback. This guy's better than anything we have. We kind of have a little nucleus. We just double down on the run game. If I told you Washington got him for a fourth and they just drafted pretty well, you'd be like, okay, Washington would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would he is he a better player than Daniel Jones on the Giants? You bring him in to kind of compete. I think there's a market, guy, just because I don't know if there would have been a market. He got a little lucky. Derek got hurt because he wouldn't have played a snap this season. Because remember, Derek then came back the next week. Like just having that one game of tape, I think just resurrected his value a little bit.
Yeah,
it was non-existent.
And he'd been hurt. He'd been a hurt player, right?
If he did not play a snap this season, I think you'd be hard pressed to trade a $10 million player whose last tape was bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they would have cut him, right? The second year guaranteed.
No.
So. But and it's good.
To me, if you're the Giants and Washington football team, I think you'd be interested.
I think Washington definitely makes some sense.
And worst case scenario, if you're the Colts and you just get shut out, and maybe you just trade for them, and then maybe you're still looking to trade up in the draft.
Yeah, I mean the problem is they've got a 4th-round quarterback on their roster who's probably not ready to be their backup based on what they've said. Jacob Eason doesn't seem like he's ready to be their backup because they basically said we don't know what we have.
I mean, if you were playing a game tomorrow, Eason couldn't hold Mariota's jock in an NFL game, right?
No.